Austria, a country well known for Niki Lauda, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and Sigmund Freud. But anyway, enough about famous people from Austria, let's talk about its history in racing, more specifically its history in Formula 1. So the first ever Austrian Grand Prix was held all the way back in 1963, however that was a non-championship event which was won by Jack Brabham in the Cooper Climax. The first actual Austrian Grand Prix was in 1964, and it was a catastrophe. It was on a 4-turn circuit by the name of Zeltweg. It looks like a pistol. Yeah, Grand Prix tracks were weird back then, okay? Don't even get me started on some of the tracks like the AVUS and Zeltweg. But anyway, the first Grand Prix was in 1964 at Zeltweg Airfield, just across from the current track, the Österreich Ring, or the Red Bull Ring, or the A1 Ring, or whatever you want to call it. I just call it Spielberg. No, not the movie director, the place in Austria. But yeah, Zeltweg, first ever race in 1964, and it was won by Ferrari's Lorenzo Bandini. Hardly anyone finished the race, and it was also the debut race for future world champion Jochen Rindt. Then, a few years later, 1970 to be exact, they returned to Austria, and this was when Austria mounted its place on the calendar, because this was when none other than Austrian legend Jochen Rindt took pole position at his home race, the Austrian Grand Prix. Although he was born in Mainz during the Second World War, but he grew up in Austria. Despite taking pole position, he was beaten off the start by Jackie X, and he probably would have finished third place had he not had an engine failure midway through the race. The following year, Austria stayed on the calendar, and it was the scene of a masterclass by Joe Siffert, as he took his only ever Grand Slam, one of his 2 Grand Prix wins, as he led every lap of the race, took pole position, fastest lap, and won the race. This was also the debut of Niki Lauda, a future Formula 1 world champion from Austria, who later became the only ever Austrian to win at his home Grand Prix in 1984. Had he not won this race, he would not have won the World Championship in 1984. Over the next decade or so, we had a variety of different winners that won the Austrian Grand Prix, from Ronnie Pearson's Lotus to Alan Jones's Shadow. And we had some very surprising race winners, such as Alan Jones, John Watson, and Vittorio Brambilla, with the most famous race out of that lot being Brambilla's win in 1975, when it was stopped halfway through due to how wet it was. Sadly though, in the 1975 race, tragedy struck, as in practice, Mark Donoghue, while driving a Penske, had a horrific crash, and despite walking out of it conscious, he started to feel headaches. 2 days later, he passed away with a brain hemorrhage. The race, of course, overshadowed this with a brilliant race, which produced a very interesting result. However, the death of Donoghue was a cloud over what was supposed to be an exciting Grand Prix weekend. Donoghue was a very experienced driver in IndyCar and Formula 1, and had in fact won the Indy 500 with McLaren. So yeah, 76 was when John Watson took Penske's only win in F1, and then the following year another American team, Shadow, won with Alan Jones. But then Austria started to become a little bit less entertaining, and then 1982 happened, when Keke Rosberg and Elio De Angelis had a terrific duel for the win, with Elio coming out on top by 0.5 of a second from Rosberg. Then, 2 years later, and like I said, Niki Lauda won the Austrian Grand Prix, becoming the only ever winner to win from Austria to win the Austrian Grand Prix. At the end of 1987 it got taken off the calendar and wouldn't return until 1997. Then the next few years it was an alright race, not really that entertaining. Well, apart from Mika Häkkinen's brilliant drive in 1999 following a collision with his teammate David Coulthard, which resulted in him dropping right at the back of the field and him moving forward to end up finishing on the podium in the end, behind Coulthard and Eddie Irvine. Then in the 2000s it didn't really get much notice. I mean, 2002 was a controversial race, with Michael Schumacher given the race win by Rubens Barrichello due to team orders by Ferrari's Jean Todt, resulting in a massive fine for Ferrari because Schumacher let Barrichello go onto the top step of the podium, breaching FIA regulations. At the end of 2003 it got taken off of the Grand Prix calendar, and this meant that we didn't have Austrian Grand Prix on the calendar. This was until 2014, because now the A1 ring was called the Red Bull ring and had new owners. Red Bull in the name, right? And in 2014 it was a decent race. Felipe Massa took pole position in his Williams, and in the end it was a brilliant battle between the Mercs for the win. Same thing in 2015, but 2016 was much controversy as they collided on the very last lap, with Nico Rosberg getting a puncture and Lewis Hamilton winning the race in the end. 2017 happened and Valtteri Bottas won that in his Mercedes. And then in 2018 and 2019 Max Verstappen won. In 2018 because he was simply the best driver, and in 2019 after Charles Leclerc had a brilliant battle with him, Verstappen had a brilliant comeback drive following having a very poor start and dropping down to 7th. 2020 Valtteri Bottas won, and that was a very interesting race as well. 11 cars finished the race. Latifi nearly got points. you know it's a crazy race when Latifi nearly gets points. That's the best way of putting it. And Lando Norris got his first podium in F1. And then in 2021 it was yet again another Max Verstappen win in his title fight with Lewis Hamilton. Who's going to win this weekend? Who knows? Austria is one of my favourite tracks on the calendar. It is the shortest by lap, not the shortest by distance though. That honour goes to Monaco. It is one of the best tracks on the calendar for overtaking, as you can overtake at pretty much every corner on the track, barring the penultimate corner because that's a fast right-hander. Yeah, it's a very, very good racetrack. The most successful driver around there is Max Verstappen, alongside 4-time F1 champion and 51-time Grand Prix winner Alain Prost. McLaren are the most successful team here, having won twice with Alain Prost, once with Niki Lauda, as well as twice with Mika Hakkinen and once with David Coulthard. Before this video ends, I wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone that's been watching the videos recently, because seriously, the support's been incredible. I did not think that a month ago I'd be on 900 subscribers and that I'd get 4.2 thousand views on the last 2 videos. So thank you so much to everyone who's been supporting the channel, and if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like these. I'll see you all later.